Okay.
So I want to welcome everybody to the Creators Roundtable. We're having Michael Janda talk to us about how to win the creative entrepreneur game. For those of you who are new here, the Creators Roundtable offers small group coaching and accountability, meets monthly in online small groups to help with the business side of your creative business. And we also have an active Slack community. Registration for our groups starts in July, but you can join our active Slack community at any time, as well as our monthly share and tell and our happy hour meetings. Our next share and tell is today at 5 p.m. and the next happy hour is next Thursday at 4 p.m. We are pleased to present these CR 60-minute events with special speakers. These are free to our accountability group members, 50% off for our Slack members, and full price for everyone on the outside. March 1st, we have Kathleen Shannon of Braid Creative, Getting More Dream Customers. March 22nd, we have Political Campaign Graphic Designer Tells All, featuring Crystal Reynolds. April 20th, Pia Silva, Badass Your Business. May 11th, Donald Miller's Story Branding Method in Action, featuring Mary Vosica. June 7th, Lydia Varesco Racoma, Map Your Content Marketing Using Branding. You'll be getting emails to attend all of these because of your attendance today. You can, of course, opt out of all of our emails. We don't want to spam anyone. We'd like you to keep your videos on to support our presenter and stay on mute. Please save your questions for the end. You can type them into the chat as you go along. I am very excited to introduce our featured guest, Michael Janda. I follow him on Instagram. I watch his YouTube videos all the time. I also loved his books, Burn Your Portfolio, Stuff They Don't Teach You in Design School But Should, and The Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing, Price Creative Work with Confidence, Win More Bids, Make More Money. Michael is an award-winning creative director, designer, agency owner, and author. In 2002, he founded the creative agency Riser, which provided design and development services for clients that included Disney, Google, Warner Brothers, National Geographic, and more. Following 13 successful years, Michael sold his agency in 2015. He now spends his time writing, speaking, and mentoring to help freelancers and agencies navigate the complex world of design. Take it away, Michael.
Hey, thank you. That's a good intro. And now I can skip the first 7 slides of my presentation that are built into my introduction. I am super glad to be with everybody today. Nancy and I first corresponded last August, I found as I was looking through my emails today, which is for a speaking event like this, it's like eternity in advance. So kudos to you, Nancy, for being so organized and scheduling these things out so far in advance. It's awesome. That was a fast, 5 months since, or 6 months since we first corresponded.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm super glad to be here, and I am pretty sure that I have some things that I hope will improve your creative business. And so I'm going to share my screen and take you through a little deck. And if you have questions, as Nancy said, you can throw them in the chat, or when we get there, we could do live QA where you just ask the question if you want to do it that way. We can figure that out when we get there. All right, so I'm going to first share my screen here, and can you see that okay? Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about winning the creative business game, or winning the creative entrepreneur game, or I've also titled this lecture Winning the Freelance Game in the past. And it really all boils down to the same thing. How do you make a creative business successful? And I'm going to share with you a few of the techniques that I learned that had a big impact on the success of my creative business. So as Nancy mentioned, I founded the agency Riser. It started as freelance. I was freelance for the first 2 years, and I was scared to hire, scared to grow. And then my wife finally got tired of me working the 60, 80-hour weeks. And she said, oh, here, we need to hire somebody. And then once I pulled the thread on that, I had 5 employees a year later and office space, and then it just continued to grow. As you can see in the back here, I love my bobblehead collection. They used to be in the front lobby of my studio space, and now they're all crammed into my little space here. These are a couple shots of our agency space. And then we did work for just a who's list of great clients. Before I started my agency, I was a creative director at Fox Studios, living in LA, working in the Hollywood thing, and built a lot of great relationships there. And like any industry, they jump from one equal business to the next in the same industry. And I had friends from Fox who started working at Sony. Another friend started working at Disney. Another friend started working at AOL, which 20 years ago actually was something. And so these businesses started hiring up my friends, and they started sending me freelance work. And that freelance work just started into just a chain of referrals to other awesome businesses. I got to know all of their coworkers at these companies, and then somebody would change jobs and I'd get a new client, and then somebody would get promoted and I would get a new division of the same client. And it just grew to just be this awesome list of clients that we had a privilege to work with. This is the agency after I sold. So when I sold my agency, we had about 20 people. And then I sold to an agency that had around 60. So we became this agency of 80 people. The agency was called EKR. It still exists today. And that's kind of a little happy thing for me, because I'm not at my agency anymore. And some of my employees are still at the agency that I founded. So my agency is the R in EKR. And then I wrote Burn Your Portfolio and the Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing. And you can find me at michaeljanda.com or more Janda on social media. Instagram, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm dropping tons of free content to help your creative business. And then my YouTube channel is growing steadily. So YouTube, I didn't really put much effort into it until last year. So I'm working to build up my YouTube audience right now. Okay, so let's dig into the content that I hope helps your business. So the first thing we're going to talk about is finding clients. This is like one of the best, the most painful things that creatives go through. They either have trouble finding clients or they want to find better clients. Those are two big pain points that creatives face. Now, the majority of your clients will come from relationships. The idea that you can just spin up cold sales strategies and start finding clients it's such a tough thing to do. And the truth is that even in bigger agencies, relationships have so much to do with your success in finding clients. It really isn't until you start building reputation that you start getting people coming to you. Until then, relationships are key. And reputation, when I'm talking about reputation, Nancy mentioned Milton Glaser at the beginning of this, Michael Beirut and Pentagram and stuff. They have reputation that precedes them. They're big names that built their careers over decades of time. And people hear the name and know the name and go for the name. And that reputation takes so long to build. And the truth is it's unrealistic for most creatives to sell effectively based on reputation, because it takes so long to build that. Now, people like Nancy that have been in business since 1985, she has reputation in the eyes of so many different clients that she's worked with over so many years that she probably gets requests that seem to fall from the sky because of that reputation. But until then, until you get to that phase, relationships are the key. Now, relationship marketing grows exponentially. In my first 2 years in business, I had 2 clients that were 90% of all my revenue. And then in year 3, those 2 clients became 4 clients. And then year 4, they became 8. And then year 5, it was 16. And then 32 and 64. And this exponential growth just started to happen. We started doubling our billings every single year for like 3 or 4 years at my agency. And it was almost unmanageable growth. So this is an important thing to know, that you've got to keep your clients happy. You got to be good to work with, and this exponential growth will start happening. Now, let's talk about some sales strategies. And I bring this up because I get people who think that there's some magic email that they can send to people through LinkedIn that's going to generate work. And the truth is that if you don't have a relationship with the person, then you're doing cold sales efforts, and cold sales efforts usually aren't built on a trusting relationship, because they don't know you, you don't know them. It's a completely cold relationship. And if there's no trust, then they're unlikely going to buy from you. The old marketing principle that it takes 7 touch points to build trust with a buyer is so true in creative services sales. You need to have 7 positive touch points to get somebody to trust you to be able to say yes. So cold sales is the last strategy that we're going to use. Then you have warm sales and hot sales. Let's just go and break these down a little bit. Hot sales are your best chance of landing work, and hot sales come from new projects from a repeat customer. If you have that opportunity, they've already purchased from you in the past and they want you to do something new, the likelihood of that green lighting is high. Or if you don't have any of those demands coming to you, you can reach out to a recent customer. You reach out to them. You say, hey, I love the work that we did last quarter. Do you have any other projects coming this quarter? That's a hot sales effort that you can put forth. And that person, they're your top of mind because they recently purchased from you, and you can generate work opportunities there. Now, if you don't have any hot sales opportunities, you proceed to warm sales opportunities. Now, warm sales can be effective. This is referred customers to you. They're already pre-sold because Joe told Sally about Nancy and how great she is to work with. So Sally reaches out to Nancy, and the likelihood of Nancy greenlighting work is high because Sally was pre-sold through that referral. That's a warm opportunity. Or you reach out to a past customer. Make a list of everybody you've ever worked with. And most likely, if you're like most creatives, you're going to find that, oh man, 2 years ago, I did this little project for this one client. And then what was I thinking? I let that relationship go stale for 2 years. I haven't kept in touch with them. I haven't emailed them. I haven't interacted with them for 2 years. You probably left so many opportunities on the table because you let that go stale. Well, this is a great place to start to try and drum up work and find new opportunities. Reach out to those clients who you let go stale with a message like, hey, so sorry it's been so long since we've talked. I was just looking at my emails and saw that the last time we corresponded was in 2019. Hope the pandemic wasn't hard on you. And you just start to build that relationship back up to be able to generate work opportunities. That's a great warm sales strategy. The next one, number 3, you ask a happy customer for a referral. And this should be part of your standard process. At the end of each project, you should say to your client, hey, I loved working with you on this. Is there anything else that we can bid on? Or do you know anybody else who might need the types of services that we offer? We're trying to grow our client base. And that should be a message that you always do at the end of every single project. I swear, I built my agency on that. I mean, it's just that one ask generates so many opportunities. And then number 4 on this, a new client with a request for proposal. Now, this isn't somebody you've worked with in the past. You have no relationship, but they already have an active project. They already know that they have a problem that they're willing to invest in for a solution. That's a warm sales opportunity. And this is why people go to Upwork and Fiverr and freelancer.com and down the list of those, because it's a whole bunch of warm opportunities. These are environments where it pits you as a creative problem solver with somebody who already knows they have a problem. So your chance of finding work in those environments is much higher. Now, I'm not a huge fan of those platforms because it's so price competitive and price driven that it's not the primary place you should go. But this idea that somebody with an active project that they're shopping around is a bona fide warm opportunity that you can invest your time into chasing down. Okay, then we go to cold sales efforts. If you don't have any hot and you don't have any warm, and you're completely out of relationships and past clients, and you don't want to be a pest, you've already reached out to everybody, you're going to move on to cold sales opportunities because you still have no clients. Now, these are low conversion. They require high volume for low return, but it can work. I've actually hired people who have used cold sales strategies with me. Now, I usually go and try to build a relationship over the course of several emails before I make that purchase decision. But I've responded to people that do these kinds of things. So this is you reaching out to a potential client or cold calling where there's no relationship and no referral. And the best way to do this is to clearly define a niche and clearly define the problem you solve and how you solve it. So give an example of you're a branding agency for pizza restaurants in New York City. That's your niche. Now you can make a landing page that says, hey, we are experts in branding New York City pizza restaurants. And then here's 3 case studies of New York City pizza restaurants that we've rebranded and the results that they got. And then you go to LinkedIn and you find pizza restaurant owners in New York City and you send them that landing page that is completely targeted to them. That's the effective way to go and do cold sales strategies. But if you design websites and you just reach out to any old random company saying, hey, do you need a website? That's the ineffective way to do cold sales strategies. So super niche, super targeted is the effective way if you don't have hot and warm opportunities to chase down. And then number 2 on this is paid advertising efforts to generate potential interest. So paid, you're running ads, you retarget people who have hit your website, you retarget them, you try and generate lead inquiries to your business. Now, again, these are high volume, low return, but they can be effective. Here's a little summary. So hot sales, high conversion, best chance of finding work, do those first. If you don't have any hot opportunities, proceed to warm sales, decent conversion. And then if you don't have any warm sales, then you proceed to cold sales, where it's lower conversion, requires high volume of effort, and super niche targeting is the way to go. All right, let's talk about this idea of relationships a little bit. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. I love this quote by Jim Rohn, and it's one of these quotes that you should makes you assess who you're even spending time with in your personal life. Like, some of us probably shouldn't be spending as much time with that one brother or sister who really is dragging us down a bit. We got to be careful with this, but we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And when you think about that, your good clients know other good clients, and your bad clients know other bad clients. So ask your good clients for referrals, ask them for more work, ask them for opportunities, get to know their coworkers, because that's going to generate future opportunities for you. These birds of a feather flock together, as they say. Okay, let's migrate over to the next little section here. Understanding where your leads come from. This concept had a transformative effect on my creative business. I was standing at a dry erase board with my right-hand person at my agency. This was about 5-6 years into it. And we started mapping on a dry erase board all of the people we worked with and where they came from. And I started to map it out like a little org chart thing, where I was like, oh, Jason referred us to Linda, Heather, Tom, Jake, and William, and Patrick. And then Patrick referred us to Karen, Deb, James, Abby, and Katrina. And Mark referred us to Jill, who referred us to Jeff, who referred us to Stephanie. But then Stephanie sent us to Linda, Heather, Tom, Jake, and William. And I started to map this whole thing out. And I started to realize that there were certain people who were like majorly giving us referrals and other people who were not. And I identified these people as connectors. And if you've ever read the book, The Tipping Point, this was like a tipping point moment for me where I looked at it and said, oh, I get what Malcolm Gladwell was talking about, that some people are connectors. They love to connect one person to another person. And when I discovered who those people were in my client list, I started to make sure that I put them as a priority for my relationship effort time. When I would travel to LA, where most of my clients were, I would schedule with Jason first. I'd schedule with Jane second, because I knew that these people were like, they were connectors. And I made sure that I kept my relationship strong and fresh with those people. So this can have a huge effect. Map out all the relationships that you have and where they came from, and try and identify those connectors, and then pay special attention to them. The next little exercise that is valuable is to do an exercise about relationship levels. I started to do this with my agency as well. Just make a simple spreadsheet and you rank your relationship level with all the people that you've ever worked with, or even all the people that you know. You look at it and say, okay, relationship level 1, 2, and 3. Your level 1 are your most trusted relationships. Your level 2 are repeating clients, and your level 3 are acquaintances. So acquaintances are who we have the most relationships with. And then as we get to level 1, it becomes less and less, those most trusted people. Well, when you do this, you can start to identify the people who you should be trying to improve your relationship with, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. I don't think that's the old cliche relationship quote. And I don't think it's more true in any industry than it is in the creative industry, because they just buy because they trust that you're going to generate the results for them, that you're going to be good to work with. So they're buying based on trusting you to be able to solve their problem and provide a good customer experience. When you look at that, you've got to build trust with all the people you can. So when you look at a list like this, the question you should be asking yourself is, what can I do to get Tom to move from a level 3 to a level 2 relationship? What should I do? Well, it's Tom's birthday. I just saw on Facebook, and I'm going to message him and say, hey, happy birthday, Tom. Treat him like a friend. Build an actual friendship with him. Or how do I get Mark to move from a level 2 to a level 1? Well, I need to go take Mark out to lunch. I need to spend more time with Mark. Maybe I should take Mark to an event. The other cliche is people do business on the golf course, and golf isn't for everybody. I used to golf some when I owned my agency, and I haven't touched a golf club since then because I don't love it. But people would invite me to go golfing with them, and I would say, okay, I'll go and golf with them. Well, what do you do on the golf course? You're building relationships. You're turning a relationship level 2 into a relationship level 1, or 3 into a 2, because you're spending 3 hours together on a sunny afternoon. So those kinds of things are the things that build that relationship of trust that turn into business in the future. So map out all the people you know, rank them based on relationship level, and then ask yourself, how do I get this person to move from a level 3 to a level 2? Now, one thing I hate about this concept is that it could easily be perceived as schmoozy and insincere. oh, you're just building relationship just to get business from the person. And I hate that. I didn't do it that way. I did it because I loved to build relationships and build friendships, and my life was richer with more friends in it. And the majority of my clients are still my friends today. I still message with them. In fact, one of my friends from Fox, and she was a client at Sony, it was her birthday yesterday, and we texted for 20 minutes and caught up about our families and stuff. I haven't owned an agency since 2018, and I still reach out and keep those relationships fresh with those people because they actually became friends. So don't do this with the mindset that I'm going to do this to get business from these people. Let business become the byproduct of building a genuine relationship, but let the relationship be the thing that enriches your life. And if business comes from it, then even better. You get to work with people who you care about and they care about you, and you get to do business together. Okay, here's every designer's sales problem. And I just had a coaching call with somebody the other day. It was an emergency call because all of a sudden his work is drying up. And we start digging into the call and find out that last quarter, which was October, November, December, was the biggest quarter he ever had in his whole business. He did like 80% of last year's revenue in the last 3 months of last year. He was so busy, but he didn't do any active sales of any kind. And where is he now in February? He has no leads. He has no opportunities brewing. He has one proposal out there, and he says, what do I do, Mike? What do I do? And the truth is what you do is you go back to last November when you were busy, and you don't stop doing sales related activities where you're going to create this roller coaster for yourself. And that's what happens here. You have a January is a low month. You're below break even, you're unprofitable. So what do? You panic sell in January, and that creates a big month in February. So what do? You don't sell because you're busy. You're so busy, you can't sell. And then what do? You end up having a low month in March. So you panic sell. And then you go to April and you have some work. So now you don't sell, and you create this feast and famine roller coaster for yourself because you're not doing sales as an active everyday part of your business. Now, the rule that I have is that you should do sales every day, whether you're busy or not. And when I say sales, I'm not saying that you get a trade show booth and you stand in it all day. I'm saying that you reach out to those past clients that you let go stale when we go back to those things, or you reach out to your connectors and make sure that you send them an email and check in on them and make sure you're keeping that relationship fresh, or that you take Mark golfing, or you take Heather to lunch. You take that hour to do that, to try and build that relationship. You take the time to do those little things that will flatten this roller coaster of revenue that so many creatives have. Okay, let's go to the next section, tracking data. If you want to win the game, you have to know the score. And man, so one of the books that had a huge impact on me was the E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't read it, you got to read it. It changed my entire mindset on business. And it was the catalyst to me saying, oh, I get it. I've got to hire people. I've got to track my data. I've got to create systems and processes. So I took those concepts from the book. It's by Michael Gerber. I took it to heart, and I thought, okay, I got to start tracking things, because data is the scoreboard for your business. It's data. And the big businesses know this. We're in earnings season for the stock market right now. And so every day the companies are releasing their earnings, and their earnings are things like Google releases their earnings and it says, oh, Google announced their earnings, and they announced a revenue of $2.37 per share and they announced a 47.3% increase in whatever. They're getting down to the decimals of knowing their data and releasing it to their investors. Google and Facebook and Apple and General Electric and Ford and every other business that got somewhere understands that data is the scoreboard. And so they track it in minutia. And so I took this mindset and started tracking everything. This was like in year 2 or 3 of my agency. This is the spreadsheet. This is the actual spreadsheet that I tracked for the 13 years minus the first 2 when I didn't understand this concept. So about 11 years of data. I tracked every little thing I could come up with. And I won't share with you everything I tracked because not everything made a difference, but I am going to share with you some of the data points that were the most valuable to my company. With the right data, you can predict the future by looking at the past. And I'm going to show you how I did that and the data points that were most impactful. So these are the most important numbers. First, invoiced versus spent on a monthly basis. How much did I invoice my clients versus how much did my business cost to run in that month? And the goal is that every single month is a profitable month. At my agency, we tracked this on a dry erase board in my office where it had every single month. And we would mark the month either green or red. So green was a profitable month and red was an unprofitable month. You can see that January, this is just example numbers, we invoiced 5,500 and we spent 5,000. We had a profit of 500. February, we had 12,200, spent 5,200. We had a profit of 7,000. Then March, we invoiced 500. We had 5,000 spent. We lost 4,500. That's a red month. The goal became every month to be green. And we tried to keep that line going, green, all the way across this whole dry erase board where we were tracking this data. And it made every difference in my business. We'd start looking at it and profitability wasn't an accident. Annual profitability was a byproduct of us watching the profitability of our business every single month and trying to stack together these green months. So this had a huge visual impact on me being able to track the performance and the health of my business. The next one, most important numbers, proposals submitted versus the number of proposals approved. How many proposals did you submit to potential clients? You can see here, January, February, March, 2, 4, 1, and 2. And we won 2, 2, 0, and 1 across those things. So now we can look at it and say, oh, okay, I see we're winning in January 100%, in February 50%, in March we won 0%, and in April we won 50%. You can start to track and understand your potential win rate, which makes it you be able to project forward in your business, because if you get a proposal opportunity, you know that you're going to be able to win 50% or 60% on average of the opportunities you have. I think I just lost my keynote. Did you guys see that flicker? Don't know what happened there. Anyway, you're going to be able to project forward what's going to happen in your agency a few months from now. The next most important number, average price per proposal. So this, you just take the 4 proposals you sent or you submitted, and they were each X amount of dollars, and you average them to give your average price per proposal. And then the next one, I'm going to show you how all these data points make a difference in your ability to project the future of your business. The next one was sales leads. And a lead is an opportunity that may turn into a proposal. So you can track this based on hot, warm, and cold on a monthly basis. So you say, okay, hot sales in January, we had 3, warm sales opportunities, we had 2, and cold sales efforts, we had 1. And you just start tracking the leads that come from your opportunities there. Okay, Start there, and over time, your data will tell you the story of your business. And I started to see this only after about 2 years of tracking this data. I could see these trends that were happening in my business. I knew that either August or September, and maybe sometimes July, but that 3-month stretch was usually going to be the biggest 3 months of my annual year. So I would look at it and say, if May or June was slow, I wouldn't panic, because I knew that historically 90% of years, July, August, or September was going to be huge. So all I had to do was just ride out the slow time in June that was hitting us. So that was just an example of understanding this data and how it can have an impact on your business. So with the 12 years of tracking data at my agency, here were the magic numbers that I had. Our project win rate, we won 61% of all the projects. Our average value per win was $16,028. And our proposal per year average was 230, and our proposals won per year was usually 125. So these were the numbers. Now here's what those 4 numbers can teach you about your business. Story example number 1, my overhead was 1.5 million. In order to break even, I would need to win 94 projects per year, which was approximately 8 per month. Okay, so that's a story. Now I knew I needed 8 wins per month to be able to just break even on my business. Now we go to this extrapolated story. If March came around and I had only won 10 projects total, my business might be headed for trouble because I needed 8 per month. I needed 8 per month, or 24, and I had only won 10 in that stretch of time. Oh no, now I can see this crystal ball for the future of my business and see that stormy weather is ahead because I'm tracking my proposal numbers. Here's story example number 3. If I want to bill more than 2 million per year, I needed to either increase my value per win, increase my project win rate, or increase my total number of proposals. There were 3 ways that I could get to the bigger than 2 million a year revenue. And I got all of those stories out of these 4 little data points here. I could start to see what was happening in my business real time and project the future of my business by looking at the past. So these numbers, or the data, will tell you the story of your business, past, present, and future. And this is why big businesses track all this stuff. I mean, they have data analysts and statisticians at mega companies that all they do is sit around and process the data and give and derive insights from it. Certainly you, as a creative entrepreneur, can start tracking at least the handful of data points that I gave you in this little lecture, that you can start tracking those and derive some insights from that. It's surprising how many creatives suck at tracking data. And it's because we by nature are creative. We don't like the numbers. We all sucked at math. We didn't like math class. We liked drawing class. That's who we are. But you gotta, if you're gonna be in business, you gotta somehow muster some passion enough just to track the bare minimum data points, because it will have a dramatic impact on your business. And you'll all of a sudden start feeling like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm a business now. I'm not just a willy-nilly freelancer trying to grind out work. I'm a real business. I'm tracking my numbers. I'm tracking my data. It will build your confidence in and your understanding in your business. All right, let's go to the last section, managing worry. This one was one that I struggled with in my creative business. It inhibited me from hiring. I shared a post on Instagram today about that I grinded out the 2 years. I was afraid to hire people. I was billing 220 my first year, 240 my second year, and I was still afraid to hire employees. It makes no sense as I look back on it historically, But at the time, I was so paranoid about feeding my own family and making my own mortgage payment that the thought of hiring somebody else was just way too overwhelming. I was fearful and operating my business based on fear. Now, managing worry, a lot of that comes from not knowing the future. And tracking your data can help you project the future and understand what's happening in your business. But another thing that you have to get used to as a creative entrepreneur is this, that your clients don't know their needs more than 3 months in advance, so you won't either. And this is just the reality of most businesses, at least, well, not even just small businesses, big businesses as well. We did tons of work for Google, and Google, they were working off of quarterly budgets. They would get their new quarterly budget and they would spin up all the new initiatives that they wanted to spend against. And all of the projects we were doing for them were going to be done in this 3-month quarter span. And so most businesses are working off of this quarterly mindset. Not all, but most. And most small businesses aren't even operating off of a quarterly mindset. They're just winging it on a day-to-day basis. So if your clients don't have a clear understanding of what's going to happen or what their needs are going to be 3 months from now, it's unlikely that you're going to know that either. So you have to get used to this unknown future, and you have to trust the past. That I had work last year and my business was worse than it is today. Certainly I'm going to have some faith that I'm going to have work again this year. Nancy's lived this for 40 years. You get the slow time and you have to rely on the fact that, well, I had plenty of work last year and I'm way more qualified this year. Certainly opportunities are going to come. And 40 years later, she's still in business, defied all odds, and she's kept it going this whole time. And that had to take a huge amount of trust that there's going to be opportunities that come beyond the 3 months that you can, the 3-month window you can see. So here are some statements that helped me get through this worry. You're not going to die. The worst case scenario is that you're not going to die. Most of us are not going to die. If I didn't die from a heart attack during my agency run, where I was stressed out all the time, it's unlikely that you're going to die from the stress of your creative business. You're not going to die. Next one, you're probably not going to lose everything. There were moments when I thought, oh my gosh, this big client project blew up. I'm going to lose everything. They're going to sue me. Something dramatic is going to happen. And the truth is that that's probably not going to happen. You're not going to lose everything that you ever earned. They're not going to sue you and take your house. And even if they sue you, there's probably just as much fault on their side that the judge will throw it out of court and say, this is silly. You're not going to lose everything. That's the other one that helped. There will be more projects in the future. You're better today than you were last year, and you had work last year. Certainly, you can get work this year. There are going to be opportunities. You have to do your part. They're not just going to fall from the sky. So keep those relationships healthy. But you're not gonna not have work. Opportunities will come. You have to trust that. The next one, there is plenty of work for everyone. Don't worry so much about your competitors. In fact, there's some benefit to cheering on your competitors. I sold my agency to a competitor that I had built a relationship with for like 7-8 years and ended up selling to them because of that relationship, that we trusted each other already. And it made sense to do that deal. But you got to somehow muster the abundance mentality and say, you know what? Good for them. They won that one. I'm going to win the next one. I'm going to do better. I'm going to make my proposal better. I'm going to win the next one. There's plenty of work for everyone, especially today where Nancy mentioned that a lot of people do branding in your group, and everything needs to be branded in 2022 and beyond. Every app, every human, every product, everything needs to be systematically branded. And this is only going to get more and more important as time goes on. So there's plenty of work for everyone. Don't worry so much about your competitors. And this was the next one that helped. you can always get a job. If you could get a job before you started out on your own creative entrepreneurial journey, you can certainly get a job now. There are people that will hire you. You're only more qualified than you've ever been. So you can always get a job. You probably won't have to, but you can always go back and get a job. And the last one, nothing feels better than having money in the bank. When you're on your own, eating what you kill, as they say, man, having some stuff in the freezer is so, so helpful. I usually, at my agency, I usually had a 6-month supply of cash flow coverage, 6 months worth of money to cover my agency overhead. And if I had had less, I probably wouldn't have been able to bear the stress of it. There was one time when the recession hit in 2008, end of 2008, that I started to eat through that whole wad of money. And I started to subsidize months, upside down months, keeping my team employed with the mindset that, oh, this is going to turn around. It always has turned around in the past. It's going to turn around again. Well, by February of 2009, I realized, wait, this one's going to take longer. And I didn't have the nest egg in the bank anymore. And I had to downsize my team. I subsidized my business for like 6 months before I made that decision and got to where I didn't have enough money in the bank to keep running my business healthily. Is healthily even a word? Who knows? But healthily. So I ended up laying people off to keep my business alive. And it was right when things turned around. And I've told this to people lately, because here we're sitting here with huge inflation and what's going to happen in the future, and when are we going to have to pay the piper, and is this Russia-Ukraine thing going to tank the global economy? Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Well, in the global recession that was the worst since the Great Depression, I only needed 6 months of subsidy before my company got back to profitability. It's unlikely that there is another event in the next lifetime of ours that you're going to need more than 6 months of subsidy. So I like that 6-month number, and it's a goal to try to save up some 6 months buffer for your financial health. And that always had a huge, huge impact on me. Okay, those slides from that you can download by going to michaeljanda.com/winningfreelance if you want to pull down the data points or whatever from this deck. You can download it on my site. And now we will take some QA.
I will send that link out in the recap email as well, so you guys don't have to figure out what you're doing. That was great. I loved the learning how you do the data points. I've done things where I've just said, do I like this client? Which category do I want to move them? But I haven't stretched it over that year. Do we have some questions? As opposed to just unmuting, use either your physical or digital hand. That would be great. Carla?
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Carla.
Huge fan and a student of yours.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question about like the leads. Do you have like, do you have like set times to reach out to people? How do you add that into your, I guess, like schedule, or just to make it frequent?
Okay. How do you schedule the cadence that you reach out to people? Or
yeah, sorry. Yes,
okay.
I didn't
so,
word it right, but yeah, just to reach out to people to keep nurturing relationships.
So I had a spreadsheet. I called it the Staying Top of Mind spreadsheet. And it was 52 columns across. And then down the first row were all of the names of people that I wanted to stay in touch with. So you go 52 columns is 52 weeks in the year. And every time you have an interaction with the person, you put it into that column. So you have Sally, John, and Dave in your first 3 names. And at the first week of the year, column 1, you put in there and say, okay, I sent my newsletter, or I sent a New Year's message to all my clients. So you put in there New Year's message, New Year's message, New Year's message. And then you go to week number 4 and you took Sally to lunch. So you write into this spreadsheet, week 4, Sally took to lunch. And then you look at Dave and you realize, whoa, we're in week 27. And the last time I reached out to Dave was week 1 with my New Year's message. What am I thinking? I'm letting Dave go stale. So you can visually, I try and take stuff, because I'm a visual person, I try and take strategies and turn them into something visual so I can see what I'm looking at. And when you start to see these big, long windows where you haven't touched base with that person, it should spark you and say, uh-oh, I need to do something. I'm going to go to Dave's Facebook. We're connected on Facebook. I'm going to go to Dave's Facebook, look for a recent post that he made, and I'm going to comment on it. I'm going to comment on Dave's post. And then I can put something in my spreadsheet that I commented on Dave's post in week 22. Now Dave had an interaction with me that helped keep that relationship fresh. So that's the mindset that I had, and the little strategy that I had to try and keep those relationships fresh over time. And these touch points can be anything from sending them an email to wishing them a happy birthday, to checking in, a check-in email saying, hey, hope you're doing well. My family just got COVID. We all got better. Made me feel like I needed to reach out to people I hadn't touched base with for a while and see how you're doing. And I've had people reach out to me like that over the last couple of years as we've been in this, and I always appreciate it. It's a friendly gesture that people are going to appreciate from you. And it's not you saying, hey, Dave, you got work for me? You got some work for me? It's just these touch points, and those touch points build trust, and that trust turns into opportunities.
I love it. I love the 52 column. So do you have set times per week, like that you, like, I don't want to say force yourself, but like be diligent to be like, I need,
Yes,
an hour
every day. And it's not an hour. Every day, do something that relates to sales, and you should just make it part of your day. And I just gave you like 3 examples. It's easy. At the end of today, before you close your laptop for the day, or put your screensaver on, or whatever you do to end your business day, you're going to say to yourself, wait, I'm not ending my business day until I send an email to Joe, who told me he had COVID a month ago, and I never checked back with him to see if he even recovered. Did he recover, or is he in the hospital, or did his whole family get it? What happened? So you just send that quick little message, say, hey, Joe, I was just thinking about you. You told me you had COVID a month ago. I hope you're doing better. Are you all recovered? Did anybody else in your family get it? And then once you do that you chalk it up and say, okay, that was sales. That was my sales effort today. I did it. Pat yourself on the back. I did sales today, and tomorrow I'm going to do something else. But it's like, it can be 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes. In 10 minutes, you could send messages to 10 different clients. And it's kind, it's relationship building, it's trust building. And it's actually, if you do it with a genuine heart, with the intention of actually caring about people, then they'll feel the sincerity of it. So I highly recommend that. Don't do it with some ulterior motive to scam them for work. If you do it with that strategy that's not effective, just do it with sincerity, and they'll feel the sincerity of it, and it will turn into opportunities. And Nancy, I'm sure, could vouch for that. She can't be in business for as long as she's been in business without having turned countless clients into actual friends. There's just no way. Some of her clients, I would guess, are some of her closest relationships in all the world. And they're going to keep working with her because they've always have, and they trust her implicitly.
Yeah.
And it comes from that relationship building. Is that true, Nancy?
No, very true, very true. Actually, a client that was referred to me a couple of years ago has become my biggest client. And we go out for drinks all the time, and we're going to have get our families together, and
Yeah.
just it becomes a good relationship. So sometimes I just reach out to just say, how was your vacation, or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And do you do it because, do you go out to drinks because you're trying to get work from him?
Because he's so much fun.
He's so
And
much fun.
we have a good time together.
Exactly. Genuinely love the person. And if you can figure out how to genuinely love the person and they will genuinely love you back, it turns your business into something fun where you like, I love when my client calls because I love to talk with them. And I know that they're in the trenches with me. And we're friends trying to solve this problem together instead of this adversarial relationship where it's the client against me. They're mad at me all the time. Man, if you can turn them into a friend and then they understand the dynamic as you and the client solving this business problem together, everything is more fun. Everything.
I love it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carla.
Reggie?
Yes, thanks, Michael. This was great.
Reggie.
A lot of great points. I realized a few years into doing business that like we're in the people business, not the pixel business. That's what I
Totally
like
true.
to say. And I appreciate the emphasis on that. And then having those efforts to build relationships coming from a genuine place. I think that's a very important point. I guess you answered a little bit of what I was going to ask in the last question about actual strategies for relationship building, particularly in this environment that we're still kind of in, but sort of making our way out of.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you had to say there. I guess I wanted to ask about what are some mindset things as far as relationship building, because a lot of us can be like about the work, like I'm about doing the work and just kind of thinking that that's what's gonna make it happen for us. But you've sort of illustrated how relationships are really what's going to help drive growth. So for those of us that have a grind, get it done, focus on what we actually produce sort of mindset, what's the biggest thing that can help us kind of shift in the ways that you talked about?
So I think the first one I would say is to genuinely care about the success of your client's business and the success of your work that you produce for them. And when you start to genuinely care that way, it makes follow-ups become natural. Where do you do branding? What do you do, Reggie?
Yeah, branding, design.
Branding.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do branding. Now you do a big rebrand for a business and then you launch it and everything's great. Well, 2 weeks later, message the client and say, hey, just checking in on the data. I just want to know, how have sales been? I'm trying to track the data and see where things were versus where they are now. Or 6 months later, you say, hey, can we just jump on a call together? I'm not going to charge you. I just want to jump on a call and get some insights as to how your business is performing based on the new brand that we launched for you. Can we jump on a call for 15, 20 minutes and analyze that together? I won't charge you, but I want to help you look at the right data points and understand if this is being successful as we hoped it would be. You start doing things like that. And again, I just keep using Nancy as an example because nobody is in business as long as her. It just doesn't happen. People burn out and quit, or it kills them, or something happens in the 40-year run of doing it. And so I'm sure, without even asking her, I'm sure that this is just second nature to her, that you have to care about results of the work. So it becomes natural for follow-up when you care genuinely about the results of the work that you are doing for them. Now, the next thing, when you care genuinely about the success of their business, you start watching for things that could help them and offering it up free of charge. So and I have people do this to me. They reach out and say, hey, I just had an idea. Okay, here's a great example. A digital marketing agency. It's a guy I've coached for 2 years. And he sent me a little video message and said, hey, Janda, I just had this idea about how you could use Instagram stories to promote your course. Here, you should just do this and this, and I'll send you a link to one that I saw that sparked this idea. He didn't do it he didn't charge me anything. He just was thinking about my business, thinking about what I was doing, and offered up a free idea to help me succeed better. And guess what? I'm working with him now. 2 months later, I ended up hiring him to be my digital marketing team for my course marketing stuff. So that's just an example of that free value or free service with the genuine intention of helping their business is a huge one. So watch for articles. If your client is in the pharma business and one of their competitors launches a major rebrand and somebody writes an article about it on some design blog, you take that article and you send it to your client and say, hey, just wanted to shoot this over to you. I'm sure you saw that that your competitor did a rebrand, but this is a really interesting article about the insights on the rebrand strategy. And you send it. And that kind of thing is you genuinely watching out for the success of your client's business. You're not charging them any money for it. You're just helping them succeed. What happens? I believe in this law of reciprocity, that if you go out trying to provide value and do good and help other people, that somehow value and goodness comes back to you. I've just seen it over and over and over again in my career. So help your clients just because you want them to succeed, not because you want them to give you more work. And as a byproduct, they're going to give you more work, but don't do it for that reason. It's the same thing on relationships. Build a relationship just because your life is richer with more friends in it. With more level 1 relationships, the more level 1 relationships you have in your life, the richer your life is. So build those kinds of relationships with your clients and then work with the people you care about. So anyway, those are a few thoughts on and mindsets on how do we keep those relationships going, or what are some strategies to build those with our clients.
You have time for the one last question?
I have time. Yeah, I can
Okay.
go over a few minutes too if we.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at 11:30.
Thank you.
1:30. Yeah, let's get through some more questions. I've got time.
Thank you so much. So when you were growing, it sounds like there's a lot of business outreach to do, sales, acquisition. Were you also leading the specific projects in your branding projects? Because that's my role right now. And plus, on top of that, I'm running a community. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
You have to delegate against a couple of things. You delegate against the things that you don't want to do anymore. So you look at it and say, okay, sales isn't sales outreach. That's not the thing that gets me excited. I'm going to delegate against that. It doesn't get me excited. I love running my community. I love running the branding projects. I don't love sales outreach. Well, then I need to delegate against that. I need to hire somebody or get some service or something that can do some of that for me. So you do the delegate against the things you don't like to do, that you don't love. Delegate against the things that you genuinely don't have time for. If you don't have time for it, then delegate against it or get rid of it in your business. Now, sales is a thing you can't get rid of in your business. You can't just say, well, I don't have time for that, so I'm not going to do it. Well, then everything is going to explode on you or implode on you. And then delegate against the things that you don't want to learn how to do. I had to do this. I can front end code, I can design, but I didn't want to learn the back end programming stuff. And I come from the era, I graduated university in 1996. So I come from the era of one-man show era where You design it, you build it, you launch it, you be the webmaster at a business because you were the one person in the team of 20 that knew anything about the web. That was me in my early career. But back-end programming was a piece I didn't want to learn. So I hired against that at my agency. Now, more specifically to your business and relating it back to mine, sales outreach was something that I delegated early on. It was like my third hire, who was my right-hand person, and he fielded all the sales calls and opportunities. And I introduced him to all my relationships, and he would send proposals and stuff. I would still be involved and I would manage the high-level relationship, but I wouldn't craft the proposal, and I wouldn't present it oftentimes to a client unless it was a huge project. So I delegated out a lot of that. Another early hire for me was an art director, because I couldn't manage the design of every single project. I just didn't have time to do it. The bigger your business gets, the more things you have delegated, until the point where you don't have anything that is your direct responsibility. And then you're picking and choosing where you want to influence your business. And that's where I got in the later years of my agency. I wasn't responsible for any milestones. I wasn't responsible for any sales clients. I wasn't responsible for the creative direction of stuff. I would go into the office and my day was open for me to say, okay, I had a conversation with this one client. I better manage some of that creative direction on that one project to make sure that Jenny does it right, does it the way that the client's expecting. So you just start picking and choosing where you want to influence your business. That's what happens on the later end of delegating. So that's one option, is you start delegating against those things. The other option is to do Nancy's business and to start saying no to stuff. You say no to doing this new type of service, or to adding an employee to do this new product offering or whatever. You start saying no because you like your solo business and you don't want it to be so burdensome that you have to have 10 employees to make it run. So you kind of have to start to pick and choose which route you want to have. And it sounds like if you're busy with a community and branding and having to sell, that hopefully you have revenue generating from those things where you can choose to either hire against them or to let some of the less revenue generating things go and not do them. That help at all? Hopefully.
Lydia, do you want to ask your question or do you want me to read it?
Yes, I can ask it. I just might have to jump off. I'm waiting
Okay.
for a meeting invitation.
Okay.
But I was wondering, Michael, I know a lot of people are using LinkedIn for sales,
Yeah.
like specifically, you can see that they kind of have a strategy.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
It's cold sales strategy, and LinkedIn is the place that it is the least annoying. So if you're going to do cold sales, LinkedIn is the place to do it. It's better than cold phone calls. It's better than cold walk-ins. It's the most acceptable environment to try and do cold sales. And to the point where I don't mind it in there, I expect it. I do want it to be niche. Somebody could reach out to Yele. Is that how you say your name, Yele? Okay. Somebody could reach out to her right now through LinkedIn and say, hey, Yele, I see that you own a business, and I did some research and see that you have a community that you're managing as well, and you do branding. Well, I'm a community manager, and I help people who are just slammed. You probably have a lot of balls in the air. I help people who are slammed manage their community so that it doesn't take over their life. Would you be interested in jumping on a 15-minute phone call to talk about that? And that kind of message, if it landed in Yele's LinkedIn box might generate interest because she is burdened with those things. So if you do that kind of approach where it's hyper niche, it can be effective in LinkedIn, hyper niche and hyper targeted.
And one of the things that I do is I go to my favorite clients, people who are in my groups know this, and I look at who their connections are that are in the same industry. And I say, I would love to connect. We're connected with these other people. These are the projects that I do for them. I would love to connect with you. And then if they connect, I thank them and ask them if they'd like to see some of the work that I've done for that client. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, we're connected and I'm going to show up in their feed.
Yep, that's perfect.
Just keep it low key.
Yeah. I do like the Gary Vaynerchuk mindset that with any of these social media things, you're either doing it or you're not. There's no kind of halfway. So if you're going to do LinkedIn as a sales vehicle for your business, then do it. Make it a standard custom or a standard process that you're continually doing for your business. Otherwise, spend your efforts somewhere else. So I like that mindset. And I do believe that with any social media channel, you're either doing it or you're not. And I think it's true just as much with LinkedIn as it is any others.
So I think that we have reached the end of our questions. Am I correct? Does anyone else have anything? Or Vanessa, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to know with regards to you were speaking about worry and having an abundance mindset. And did you always have an abundance mindset? And if not, how did you grow that for yourself?
Okay, so I didn't always have an abundance mindset. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I started my business with a fear mindset. I was fearful. My abundance mindset grew as my experiences with abundance grew. So it came through time. Now, the book that I'll recommend to you, I just looked over, I don't see it right there, is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, E-K-E-R. I love this little book. It's an easy read, and he talks about the money blueprint, how each of us is conditioned to perceive money in a certain way because of the way that we were born and raised and the way that our parents perceived money. And we were programmed, or we were given a money blueprint that was imprinted into us. And he uses the example, in the book, I think he uses Donald Trump as the example, but we won't use Donald Trump as the example. We'll use Jeff Bezos as the example. Jeff Bezos. Okay, so Vanessa, $10 million. Is $10 million a lot of money or a little bit of money?
In my mind, it's a decent amount of money.
Okay, it's a pretty good amount of money. Now, to Jeff Bezos, is $10 million a lot of money or a little bit of money?
A little bit of money.
A little. $10 million is his minute by minute fluctuation in his net worth. And what's the difference? $10 million to him is $10 million to you, but he undoubtedly perceives $10 million as different than you, me, and everybody else. His money blueprint is programmed differently than you and me, than the normal average person. But $10 million is still $10 million. If he had $10 million, he would feel like, and that was all he had left, he would feel like, I failed. I'm bankrupt. I failed. It's all over. If you had $10 million, you would be sitting there thinking, why am I working? I'm going to Aruba. I don't know, why am I doing this anymore? So that's the difference. And this book is all about understanding how an abundance mentality can reprogram our money blueprint to perceive things differently. And as a byproduct, we start talking differently about money. We start presenting bigger prices with more confidence. We start seeing opportunities to generate revenue for us and our clients in bigger ways because we've reprogrammed our brain about money. I'll just share one little question that it's partly embarrassing and partly a badge of honor. But while my oldest son was in high school, he's 23 now. When he was in high school, he was about 16, and we were driving around, and I said, "Hey, Max, is $100,000 a lot of money or a little bit of money?" And this is a 16-year-old. And he said, I don't know, it's not that much. That's what he said. Because for 10 years of his life, actually 13 years of his life, I had been sitting at the kitchen table talking about landing $100,000 projects, $500,000 projects. Ooh, we just got this huge $300,000 project. Oh my, I've just had payroll today. It was $63,000. I was talking about money like that to him, and it programmed his brain differently. Then I asked him, what do you think the average income, the average household income is in the United States? He said, I don't know, maybe like 300,000. That's what he said. I was like, that's the embarrassing part. I was like, oh man, you're so off. It's $55,000 a year is the average household income. But he was programmed with a different money blueprint to think, okay, 300,000, that's what everybody's making. So his mindset is different even at a young age. Now, what does he talk about? He talks about, well, I want to own some commercial real estate, and he's in college right now, but his vision is I want to have some commercial real estate properties, and because he used to manage my commercial real estate when I owned my studio spaces. And then when I had a renter in there, I'd send him to go get the checks, and I'd send him to the bank to deposit the rent checks. And he was handling $9,000 checks every month from our renter, and seeing this financial churn happen that changed the way he perceives money. So is he going to be financially more successful than I was? I hope so. He sure is starting way earlier than I did, because when I was 23, I was making $8 an hour working at Arby's. So he's so far ahead mentally. And I think that there's something in that, in reprogramming our brain to think about money differently, that relates to abundance mentality and understanding the potential that we all have to generate financial wealth regardless of our situation. And that's true worldwide now. And I know some countries are in a much different situation than where we are in the United States. And there's people, I'm connected to people all over the world, and I'm blown away at the talent and the revenue that some people in India, people in Iran, some of the best UX designers that I know are in Iran. Mm-hmm. And I'm connected to them on Instagram, and that's a struggling economy, but man, they are way far ahead money blueprint programming wise than what the majority of the people in that country are, because the economy is so struggling. So anyway, abundance mentality, I think, has migrated and grown in my perception as I've seen some of these things happen in my life. I also am competitive, and I grew up with 4 brothers, and I look around and I see people doing great things, and I think, man, they're no better than I am. How are they doing $1 million a year in their thing? They're not better than me. I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. That's another mentality that I have as well, that I think has led to some of the abundance mentality too.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. And for the book recommendation.
It's a good one. It's a super easy read, but I think it'll have some mind shift changes for you.
And I'll put the books that Michael recommended in the email as well. So we're starting to have people pop off. So I will say this will be it. Thank you again so very much. I recommend, if you guys do not follow Michael on Instagram, it's just an amazing wealth of information that he shares. And I, again, just thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Super fun. Thank you. Hey, and I reply to my DMs and stuff. So if you want to reach out to me on Instagram and say, hey, I was in the Creatives Roundtable. I love to connect with new people. I am relationship focused. So feel free to shoot me a DM and we can connect on there and reach out anytime.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.